Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Handpicked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. famouscigars.com/cam.
The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam. Sam, how are you doing?
I am doing well, my friend. I'm ready for a mailbag today. Do you know how long it's been since we did our last mailbag?
Is it, I'm guessing, like 8 months, 7 months?
Something like guessing. That. It's been like a few weeks if you count not the main feed. But since the last time we did a main feed mailbag, first of all, the Suns lost in the playoffs. They went through the whole playoffs and they lost in the playoffs. Monty Williams got fired.
Yeah.
Frank Vogel got hired.
Okay.
Chris Paul got traded for Bradley Beal. A whole bunch of other crap happened. We filled out 2/3 of the rest of the roster with minimum contract guys. We were excited about most of those signings, yada, yada, yada. Summer League happened. The draft happened. Tumani Kamara, future star. And here we are. So a lot of stuff, I think for people to kind of, obviously we've given our takes about all of these subjects throughout, but I think was a lot of stuff for our listeners to kind of stew on and throw it back at us and ask us some questions. So you know how it is. We're going to get through as many of these as we possibly can in an hour plus. These episodes, we usually go over an hour, at least a little bit. But we're still probably not going to hit all of the 50-something questions we have here, at least not reasonably. So we'll do our best.
That's right. And we just go in order, whatever order Elon Musk decides, as I've said in the past, because it's just Twitter just sort of puts them in order for us, and I just read them in that order. So if yours doesn't get read,
you're supposed to
feel free to take it up with SpaceX.
You're supposed to say X now, actually. Not,
that's right.
Whatever order Twitter puts them in.
Let's go. RB said, besides Denver,
can you read RB's full name because it makes me laugh?
RB Ringless Bitch.
Thank you.
Is his full name.
He's a good account. Go follow him. Good Suns fan.
They already do. Besides Denver, what are some teams you're excited to see this Suns team matchup against in the regular season? So yeah, assuming you're excited about Denver, which I am. I've thought a lot about that matchup. I have another team that in particular that I've been thinking a lot about lately in general, but I'd love to hear what you have for this question.
Okay. Well, for some reason, the first one that came to mind, I guess, was Golden State, just because the storylines, right? The storylines are so good. Big talking media heads love the Warriors. They're going to get plenty of national TV games. They're going to be competitive in the space. In fact, I think if you look at the over-under projections right now, I think Golden State might be third in the Western Conference. A lot of people have them there because they're kind of anticipating this Memphis dip. And no one really believes in the Clippers, and I guess people don't even necessarily believe in the Lakers to the extent that they did last season. I don't know. So
they're pretty injury prone, yeah.
Yeah, at least in most places. Like if you look right now, the Warriors are kind of third or fourth. So just I'm naturally inclined to go with them because that kind of feels like it could be a second round battle or something. The appetizer before hopefully a Denver Nuggets battle in the Western Conference Finals. But who were you thinking?
I've been thinking a lot about the Celtics, and I think the reason I've been thinking about the Celtics a lot is because they made the most interesting non-Suns trade of the offseason, right? At least right now. The other trades could happen soon. Like if the Heat end up with Damian Lillard, they're going to be on the list. But in thinking about the Heat, they have Porzingis. I'm sorry, the Celtics. They have Porzingis now. If any of you missed that, I just can't figure out what they're going to do against the Suns, because there's this version of the Celtics where they start Porzingis and Williams together, right? This big, gigantic front court. And then you have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and then whoever at point guard. I think Derek White probably is going to be their point guard that starts. But then, like, I can't... Who guards... Does that mean KP on KD? Yeah. I guess? Or do they start with KP at center, for the regular season? I imagine they're not going to do a matchup thing against the Suns in the regular season. They're probably going to play whoever their normal starters are. And it's just like a lot of these teams that you think about that are going to be good, and I think the Celtics are going to be really good, personally.
They're actually, to quote the over-under win thing again, they're first. Most sports books I'm looking at have them first in terms of just best record in the league going into the season.
53.5, I think, is what I saw them have, or something like that.
Yeah.
But just thinking about them, they are going to be really good. And I think in a lot of teams, you have a power forward like Porzingis, assuming he plays that power forward position. You can do a lot defensively. But there's a lot of issues when teams are going to try to match up against the Suns and figuring out how to guard the Suns, and they have interesting problems.
Right.
Because either they end up putting Porzingis at power forward, where they basically sit their best defender in Robert Williams, or they play Porzingis, who's going to be matched up against Kevin Durant for an entire game, and Robert Williams is in there. And like either way, either you have Porzingis in 1,000 pick and rolls, or you have Porzingis on Kevin Durant. And I'm just excited to see how they end up matching up against the Suns. And if they end up being really good, I think the Suns have some advantages in that matchup outside of rebounding, which the Suns may not be a great rebounding team this year. But it's just a fascinating team to think about.
Yeah, I can see the Suns being a solid rebounding team this year, even a good one.
Right.
It's definitely exciting to think about. I mean, if you think about it, really these two teams are attacking from the same general philosophy, I think, which is, these are not teams that have traditional point guards. They've kind of foregone that whole experience. They're okay. The Celtics are okay with the fact that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are not the best dribblers or playmakers in the league, and they're willing to live with the warts that presents because they believe in the defense that they could build. I think when you get deep into a playoff setting, in this case, obviously, it would be the NBA Finals because that's the only way these two teams could meet. Right. I'm inclined to give the Suns the edge just based on having much more dominant kind of isolation scorers and the prospect of having KP, like you're talking about, if he starts at the 4 and kind of being able to space the floor with the scorers the Suns have and attack in space. I think they could do a really good job with that, but it's going to be kind of a rock fight, I could imagine it.
I mean, the Suns aren't really built to guard them either. It's sort of the similar problem that they have to a team like the Clippers, where if a team has two big wings, essentially, it means Devin Booker and Bradley Beal are going to have to be on one of them.
Yeah.
Especially in this case where if KP is in, it's a 7-footer, so KD definitely has to guard KP. And that is just an interesting prospect to think about. And I don't know. If they end up in the finals together, of course, that'll be a fascinating thing. And it probably won't happen. The chances of choosing the two finals teams right now in July is pretty low, I think. So I'm not going to put any money on it, but it would be a fascinating series, I think.
We've just been building up towards it for a while, I guess, in terms of momentum, because after the Bucks series, everyone was ready to crown the Bucks as the next big thing in the Eastern Conference for however many years, and the Bucks will still be there this year too. But the Celtics have certainly come through with a vengeance since then. So I don't know.
The Suns need to get revenge for the '70s finals that they lost.
It just feels like we haven't seen enough. I mean, we only play them 2 times a year, right? So there's a lot left to be uncovered. I think maybe it's the team with the most unanswered questions in terms of how the Suns would match up against them, just because we've so rarely seen it. Yeah.
All right. Ian asked, what is your preference on how the Suns use their trade exceptions? They have 2 right now, one for around $5 million, one for around $6.5 million. And he gave some options: target assets to attach in a later trade, acquire players at positions of need and can help now, etc. And he asked if we have a favorite target for those exceptions. I want to mention just something that he said here, and it's something that David broke down on Twitter, our friend David, which is the idea of using the trade exception to absorb a salary now and then using that salary to make a trade later. That can happen, and it actually can happen before the season begins, because if you use a trade exception for a player, you can apparently trade that salary 60 days later. So technically, the Suns can absorb a player into that trade exception now, use some of those second-round picks that they have to trade that player for someone else in the future and aggregate them with, like, for example, I don't know, Ish Wainwright, or I guess just Ish Wainwright, right? Do we have any other
just
salaries?
Ish Wainwright.
I mean, we have Ayton, but I don't think that'll happen. And so you have Ish Wainwright, and you have the aggregated trade exception player, whoever you absorb with that, and then you can trade him for. They've been attached to TJ McConnell as an example. I don't know if the salary actually lines up there, but that's an example of a player they might have been looking at. It's a kind of a fascinating thing to think about if they end up doing that. I would say that is probably the most interesting option for me, if only because it opens up options, whereas I think absorbing a player directly into that trade exception seems unlikely unless you trade every single second-round pick that we have.
I don't know that
they're going to be a good player, I guess is what
I don't know that that's necessarily true. I mean, the difficult thing also, if you do that first option, doesn't it reduce your flexibility just a little bit, in the sense that if you're an apron team, now the salary matching rules come into play, the new salary matching rules, that is, that it has to be within 110%. So if you find the right player within that tier, I guess go for it. But it seems to me that kind of just leaving the trade exception open until February and seeing if there's a player who slots into that. It could be anywhere under that $6.5 million threshold. Like, could be $4 million, could be $6.5 million, could be $7 million. I don't know. It seems to me like that might be the option that presents you with a little bit more flexibility. Now, to your point, could you get a decent player without surrendering 6 second-round picks? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Jay Crowder went for 5 second-round picks last year, and he didn't even play in the playoffs
at all. Yeah,
yeah. But that's kind of the worst case scenario, right? So, in any case, I like the idea, not necessarily of using it as an asset, but I guess not trying to galaxy brain it, and rather just going for a player who can maybe help us win now.
There is an interesting thing about using it now, and then getting a player that has more salary than the trade exception by aggregating him with Ish Wainwright.
Yeah. So what does that get you up to? And then
using that again potentially at the trade deadline, probably like $9 million, like around there. Yeah, maybe $8 or $9 million. And then using that salary again at the trade deadline to try to trade for another player around that amount, which you could potentially do. So, the way that it was explained by David was that essentially you wouldn't do the first part, which is taking a player on to trade 60 days later without essentially the future trade having already been negotiated. So you essentially wouldn't be taking on that much of a risk. It's just a fascinating little loophole that you could potentially use.
It's okay. I'll admit it's fascinating. What system of accountability exists for a team to then not back out of that deal after 60 days and leave you with a player you didn't want in the first place?
Well, I mean, none, the option of pissing off a team and an agent is always kind of a bad idea.
Yeah, sure.
In scenarios like that, you want the agents to be on your side. TJ McConnell's agent, by the way, is Mark Bartelstein, who is the CEO of the Suns' dad. Just throwing it out there. Yeah,
I guess probably not a guy you want to piss off or is going to be pissed off. Would make for a kind of awkward Thanksgiving dinner otherwise.
Will Reap said, outside of the Suns, who had the best summer on paper in the West? Any teams you expect to be wildly better or worse than last year? Who do you think?
I don't know if they had the best summer, but just in terms of natural progression, OKC is rising up the ranks fast, folks. And I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if they were top 4 in the West. I've said that before. I'll say it again. They could also easily only be 7th or 8th. Either way, I think they're a playoff team this year. So that's the first one I think of.
I'm going to say the Lakers.
Yeah, that's fair.
They did. That's fair. They could have. had a disaster this offseason. And I think they actually ended up. So they got, so just to clarify what they did, they got Gabe Vincent. Let me actually bring it up to actually see everything they did. Gabe Vincent, they re-signed Austin Reeves, and they re-signed D'Angelo Russell, both I think to really good deals. Whereas they could have lost Reeves for nothing.
You think the Reeves deal is a really good deal? I mean, I think they had to do it, but like, you think that's a good deal?
Yeah, I think he's a really good player. Like, I think he's really good. So those kinds of, it's not like a max or anything. Like, in those kinds of deals for really good players are worth it. And yeah, they kind of did have to do it, but he could have been priced out of their range as well, and he didn't get priced out of their range because they didn't have a lot of flexibility to deal with when it comes to Austin Reeves. D'Angelo Russell, I would say that his deal is not great, but it's one of those scenarios where when you're already over the cap, you're essentially saying, yeah, we're overpaying D'Angelo Russell, but it doesn't matter because we're not using cap space to do it anyway. We're just sort of keeping him based on the situation that we have. It doesn't cost as much, but some tax money.
Also,
as far as that goes, I think it was good.
We're the Lakers. Like, money doesn't matter to the Lakers.
Well, I mean,
even with the new CBA penalties, I don't care. Like, come on. If any team can foot a $200 million luxury tax bill, which I don't know
they
if that's
can
exactly how much they'll owe, but they could do it.
They're just a little bit of a mom and pop team at this point compared to some other teams in the NBA. But yeah, I do think that I think that they had a pretty good offseason. Now, their entire team is still just all based on whether or not LeBron James and Anthony Davis can remain healthy in the playoffs, but you can say that about a lot of contenders, I think. Except that they have one of the most perpetually injured guys in Anthony Davis, and LeBron James is 1,000 years old. So just outside of that, I thought they actually did a pretty good job. And other than that, there haven't been a lot of major changes in the Western Conference. There could be soon. You know, James Harden could be joining it.
That's what we're all waiting
Damion
on.
Lillard could be leaving it. And if those two things happen, I think that could shake it up. You know, if the Clippers end up trading nothing, essentially, for James Harden, then, you know, you could make the case that they had the best offseason. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't really gathered how I truly feel about that Clippers team. That doesn't move me. Have you thought sincerely about how you feel, James Harden on the Clippers? Should that concern us? It doesn't concern me. Just thinking about it, no fear is in my heart when I consider that big three.
I think they get better. You know, they're such a theoretical team. So until they're not, I agree. It's hard to be scared of a theoretical team. And, you know, they're one of the few theoretical teams that exists. It's just it never exists at the right time. So I don't know. You know, I think they get better.
I suppose they have had like this playmaking void for a while that would be so easily filled by Harden, someone of Harden's caliber. But
it's kind of funny because I'm going to look at what Kawhi averaged. Now, Kawhi does average a few assists a game. If I had to guess, I don't know exactly. I'm going to bring it up right now.
I guess like 5.
I would guess 4.5 is what I would guess. And let me bring it up right now. He averages 5.2.
Okay.
Well, in the previous season, 3.9 last year. So about less than 4 assists per game. But when you watch him play, he's like, you know, he makes easy reads occasionally, and that's what ends up with 4 assists for a guy who plays, you know, 33 minutes a game. That's going to happen. He doesn't really create for others very often. When he catches the ball, it's with the intention of trying to score like 90% of the time. And, you know, we talk about different guys and how you sort of play their game. Kawhi is one of those guys, and he doesn't really get talked about like he plays Kawhi ball, if you will, and he really doesn't really get talked about like that in the same way. And, you know, Paul George can get 5 assists a game as well, and even better, I would think, than what Kawhi can do. But like you said, they've never really had a point guard, and James Harden would be the closest thing they've had to that. I think it would be fascinating at the very least, maybe the slowest team in the NBA, if they end up having that group together.
Yeah, absolutely no transition offense. That's a good point too. And Harden's half-court offense needs to hold up in the playoffs. And I don't know, it's not that he
disappeared every other
can't
game.
Do it, but it's a scary proposition. If he's only creating for others, which is great, but no longer a capable scorer when the ball is in his hands so much, especially with like his finishing numbers plummeting.
He's kind of Chris Paul-ish.
I don't know. I don't want to say he's washed because it's like that's hyperbolic to. Yeah, that's far too hyperbolic to say that. It's just like, yeah, they could add James Harden. I'm not particularly worried if they do.
Yeah, I'm going to say Gregory. It's probably pronounced a lot more French than this. Do you want to try the French pronunciation, Sam?
It's just in an American accent. It's Gregoire.
Gregoire, thank you. He said, any MVP candidates? I've been watching a French TV show, by the way. You should watch it, Sam. It's called Call My Agent.
No, I've watched it before.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good.
Anyway, he said, is there any MVP candidate on the team, on the Suns? And that's actually a pretty interesting question. Is there? Probably not, right? Because they kind of cancel each other out unless there's injuries.
In our hearts, yes. But let's be
talking
serious.
about Devin Booker, right? If it's in our hearts.
Even Kevin Durant. I think Suns fans still have not, understandably so, necessarily, like, they don't have the emotional backing to Kevin Durant yet. We could get there.
We've watched like 20 games of him so far.
If this is a 60-win season incoming with really this big three here, and Kevin Durant is leading the way with 30 points per game, we could get there with KD. It's just, practically speaking, we know how the voters vote. The jig is up with the MVP race. We know how it works. The
they
MVP
on their favorite advanced stat, they sort by.
Well, no, that's not where I was going with it. I wasn't going to say that. It's more so the guy with the best stats on pretty good to
on
mediocre
a top 7 team
on a top 7 team wins.
Wait, top 7 team in each conference.
it's not the guy with the second or third best stats on the best team who wins.
Right.
That's just how the trophy is awarded now. So if Luka, just to throw an example out there, not targeting him for any specific reason, but if it just feels like something he could do. If Luka averages 35 and 10 assists and the Mavericks go 43 and 39, for whatever reason, he's probably going to be higher on MVP ladders than a season in which the Suns are really good, but all 3 of their stars give us 65 plus games. And, Booker and KD are up at 27, 28 points per game.
Luka just has to play defense for like the first 20 games of the season so that it sets the narrative in stone.
That's true.
And
those first 20 games are really important.
And everyone talks about it for the rest of the season. Oh, he's playing defense this year. Even if it goes away, they won't notice.
Yeah.
Stephen Freeman said, compared to last year, how much do you think we see Okogie bring the ball up and initiate the offense this year? Not as much, since we don't have to worry about CP3 ball pressure in the playoffs, ? That's interesting. I would say not that much, right?
My first instinct is to say not that much, yeah. But if we're talking specifically about how Chris struggled against ball pressure, I wouldn't necessarily... Like, Beal and Booker are capable of struggling against ball pressure too. Because let's face it, they're not natural point guards. Yes, they have size. So I don't think it's going to be something that gives them trouble possession to possession. But there are times...
much faster.
Yeah, and when we talk about Okogie, the big unanswered question with Okogie is, will he play in the playoffs at all? His shot needs to be falling. But in general, how do you use a guy who's not a spacing threat like that? You want to include him as a screener as much as possible, or you could have him do something with the ball in his hands. So yeah, I could see it in spot situations. I'm not sold on Okogie being like, I guess, playing heavy minutes with our starters in the playoffs yet. We're not there.
I don't think... Look, there's a version of Okogie bringing the ball up where he's not really initiating the offense too.
Right.
Like where the offense starts with Devin Booker just running around a pin down screen and catching the ball. Then the play really starts as soon as it's in Devin Booker or Bradley Beal's hands or Kevin Durant in the post or something like that. So yeah, that could happen. I don't really necessarily think the person dribbling it beyond the half court line is the most important player there. But I would say not that much. Not that much. I think that it's more likely. First of all, I think the Suns are going to play faster, meaning they're probably going to get the ball down past half court a lot quicker now that Chris Paul's not on the team. And that happened, by the way, in the playoffs after Chris Paul was injured. So that there's some level of intention there, even if it's just Kevin Young who stayed. But I do think they'll play faster, so that maybe won't happen as much. Chris Paul always sort of inclined to bring it up slow. And that he's kind of asking for players to hound him at that point because he's wasting the clock as much as possible.
What's interesting about that, because I hadn't really considered it, like with Okogie, now that I think about it, I can't remember much transition offense that came from Okogie last year other than when he was creating it himself based on a defensive
steal or a
deflection
block.
He had.
Yeah.
Now, he's a guy who, if he has a steal or a block and he has a clear runway, he will take off. He will go as fast as possible, and he will lift off for a dunk, one hand, two hand, whatever. Like, he can be ferocious with it. But playing as kind of an off-ball transition player, just correct me if I'm wrong, but just from what I remember, like, I think he's kind of out of his element in that role as well. He obviously can't really space the floor, like if he just runs to the corner. So I'd like to see if he can evolve a little bit more as a transition finisher or kind of a cutter in those situations. I'm not sure we've seen it that much from him.
Well, he's not afraid.
Yeah, he has the
that
aggression.
makes a big difference. Yeah. So, if he's out there on the wing and he's sprinting down, they're going to give it to him because they know he's going to go up at the very least try and force them to foul him. And by the way, a good free throw shooter, considering you would look at his 3-point percentage and think it was bad, but he's a pretty good free throw shooter. So he can get points on those. Kellen Olson said, need Mike's thoughts on Damon's performance in Oppenheimer. I have yet to see it. I decided...
When are you seeing it?
I decided that I wanted to see it in 70 millimeter.
Oh.
And that means that I had to buy tickets about 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I could have gone to a regular theater, but I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm going to go.
What are they doing? What are they doing in Phoenix? Is there like one theater that shows it in 70 millimeters?
So there's one actual IMAX theater, like real IMAX theater, that shows it in 70 millimeter. And then there's a couple screens that show it on small screens, but like with the square aspect ratio. And I decided to just go to the real IMAX.
Sure. I get it.
So I'm looking forward to it.
I have also, have you seen Barbie?
I have, and I enjoyed that. I did have a good time watching that.
Okay, I am seeing both of them back to back on Wednesday, and I cannot wait. But I had to wait until Wednesday because I'm going with someone else. Had to work around their schedule. But
it was
I
fun.
cannot wait.
It was fun to see. Like, the theaters were packed this weekend, and that was kind of fun to see. Movies are back.
I don't know if movies are back, but it's fun to see the entire culture. Yeah, it's fun. Just have fun. Don't think about it too much. Just have fun.
Yeah. I mean, I do all the time. But anyway, Luis said, how much will you guys be watching the FIBA World Cup? I'll tell you right now.
Yes.
I'm going to watch every single game that I can.
Okay, but
a doubt. I can't always stay up in the middle of the night if they're in the middle of the night.
That's what I was going to say.
But if they're, and maybe sometimes I'll record it because I did. I have the ability of recording some of them. But if I can watch it, I will, because I'm not watching anything in the summer. I don't watch baseball at all, really. So I got nothing going on. And I know it's August, so maybe it'll start overlapping with football season at some point.
Yeah.
Don't care about that either.
You get so desperate in the summer that I've seen you tune into like tennis matches before.
Yeah, we get so desperate that I watch a French TV show about agents.
It's pretty good.
It's a good show.
It's pretty good. They've got some good celebrity cameos. The episode with Sigourney Weaver. She has a good French accent. Anyway.
I haven't seen that one yet. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, she does a good job. What were we talking about?
FIBA World Cup. You're going to watch
World
it
Cup.
Right?
Yes, I'm going to watch it. Who the hell is
hosting? It's so fun. I had such a great time.
I know it's in the Pacific time zone, but I can't remember. Is it like the Philippines? Is it Japan? Is it New Zealand?
I'm looking it up.
I think it's split between a bunch of countries. Maybe?
Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia, according to what I just Googled.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be really tough for the average American viewer. Doubly so if you are in Phoenix, where truly it's going to be in the middle. Yeah, it's going to be the middle of the night.
That's a good point.
For me, I am at work, usually at around 6 a.m. Eastern time when the games will be showing. But I will gladly watch games on my break, maybe on my phone. So yeah, I'm going to try. I'm going to try.
I'll have it on. If I'm working, I'll have it on in the background somehow. Last one was when Rubio and the Spanish team won, and Rubio, that was right before Rubio joined the Suns, and that was a blast to watch him play really well right before he joined the Suns. Basically had his best ever games at a tournament like that.
Do we have any? I haven't even considered. Do we have any Suns representatives in here? Is Watanabe playing for Japan? Like, is that confirmed?
That's a good point. We should look that up before our next episode.
Do we have any other foreign players right now? No, we don't, do we? Well, Okogie is... shit. They're not in the World Cup, though, are they?
I don't know.
See, I haven't done my research on this guy, so I just...
Yeah, let's look that up.
Yet. We'll get it later.
Our friend Richie, a.k.a. Mavs Draft on Twitter. Hottest Suns take and why? I didn't prepare for this one. I'm curious if you have one.
This one came in super late, just before we started recording. If I say that Bol might be okay, is that
hot take? Yeah.
Is that a hot take? I feel like that's a hot take when I'm talking with you because I can feel the seething hatred when you talk about Bol. You don't want him.
Hate him.
You don't want him to see any minutes.
I genuinely don't hate him.
No, what's a serious one? I don't know. You don't have anything?
I mean, like you can say like a bunch of them that lean positive. Like
the problem is,
the Suns will be healthy and win 65 games or something. But like, I don't really want to say those types.
I think Keita Bates-Diop is going to rock and win the hearts of a lot of Suns fans. I don't think that's an unpopular. Like, I feel weird painting that as an unpopular opinion, though. Maybe at the national level, I feel like there are just a lot of guys on this team where if you tried to talk to someone who's not even a casual, just a general fan of the league, and you're like, yeah, that Keita Bates-Diop guy, he's going to change everything for the Suns, they would kind of laugh in your face. But I feel like that could legitimately happen this year. So maybe I'd lean towards something like that. I don't think I have a spectacularly hot take about the big three or the big four of the Suns, other than that the fact that we are not starting a traditional point guard is not an issue whatsoever to me.
Yeah, that would be a hot take to people who don't normally listen to the podcast. But
sure, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'll try and think of one as we move on here, because maybe some of these questions will trigger one in my mind.
Bowl is good. That's mine.
Glenn Brown, a.k.a. Suns Down Under. If we make no further moves, what do you predict our record will be after the first 20 games, which is an interesting inflection point, 20 games, because I think they could struggle at first, and I think there's also a world where they're all just really bought in and they play really well because they're really, really good at basketball. Or there's even a world where they struggle at first and still win 75% of the games or something like that. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it could be either one. Remember a couple years ago when we were still adjusting to the Chris Paul, Devin Booker backcourt.
The first 16 games were 8-8.
They were 8-8, and we did a whole podcast. I just distinctly remembered us doing that podcast at a point in the season when we were 8-8, and people were freaking out, and we were thinking to ourselves, what if this doesn't work?
Yeah. Well, not us. I believed.
Okay. All right. Well, even in the back of your head, you're not going to say you had like any anxiety about it?
I actually think...
I know you pushed really, really hard for that trade before anyone else did, and I will never take that away from you. But when we were 8-8, you're saying you didn't have any anxiety about it?
I was not surprised that... I think before the season started, I thought, oh, this is going to work really well. They make sense. And when we started watching, it was like, oh, actually, no, this... It wasn't surprising to me after watching them play a few games that, oh, this might take a little while. Mm-hmm. And I guess maybe that's the lesson I learned from that team, and I'm taking it into this one thinking that maybe it's not going to work right away. What I didn't factor in with Chris Paul is that he's just kind of a unique player that you kind of have to figure out how to play with. Whereas these guys, I don't really know what the offense is going to look like.
Well, that's exactly
I think it'll be really good, but it's hard for me to picture other than, wow, these plays are going to work really well, that kind of thing.
I think that's a really good point about the offense specifically, because when I think about how this team is going to start their season, they can kind of sleepwalk to wins with a decent offense and like no matter what. To me, I guess I'm thinking about where are they going to have more issues first, the offense or the defense? The defense, I feel like they should kind of come out of the season cooking, because I honestly don't think when you're given this personnel, as long as you have a guy who is sort of a point of attack candidate who can harass the best options on opposing teams. For the most part, you should be fine with the personnel that the Suns have. You have DeAndre Ayton drop back. You have guys 1 through 4 switch as much as possible. Of course, I am not a defensive coordinator, and there's way more to good defense than just that. But in general, it feels to me like they could...
Those are pretty good principles that I think will probably happen, yeah.
It feels to me like they could sleepwalk their way to an above-average defense coming out of the gate this season in a way where maybe the offense is the thing that takes a little bit more time to click. With as much talent as they have, I just feel like it might take some more time for their offense to gel and for Kevin Young to instill those principles and sets and whatever else that they need to get going. So to answer the question, I don't know, like what's the worst case scenario? They're 12-8 after 20 games. Like it's hard for me to imagine.
13-7, yeah.
It's hard for me to imagine that they'd be below 500.
And they could be 15-5, like pretty easily. I think that adjustment wise, there's two adjustments. There are two adjustments really that I have to think about, but they involve 4 players. Say the Suns are running a double drag or a Spain pick and roll, which essentially involves those are plays where there's 1 ball handler, 2 screeners, and then 2 off the ball players that are standing behind the 3-point line. If DeAndre is a screener in those actions, that means that one of Kevin Durant or Bradley Beal or Devin Booker needs to stand in the corner. Now, those guys need to get used to standing in the corner sometimes. They just do. They're going to be in the corner a little bit more than they've ever been in their career. A lot more for some of them probably at times. Whereas Devin Booker, I think, has spent a lot of time being off ball. I think the other two guys are probably going to spend more time doing that than they ever have before. Now, if DeAndre Ayton is not a screener, right? So here's a second adjustment. And it's an action that involves Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker all directly involved with the ball handler, like some version of a Spain pick and roll where those two guys are setting back screens. And it sounds fascinating, right? It's one of those versions of the plays where all three of those guys aren't going to feel like they're not involved because they're going to be involved. That will require DeAndre Ayton essentially to either not be on the court, so some version of a small ball center with Kevin Durant at center, or he's in the dunker spot. And I actually think the more I thought about the Suns offense, I think that there's a good chance that DeAndre Ayton spends the more time in the dunker spot than he's ever done so far in his career. Whereas with Chris Paul, he's screening a lot. He's catching the ball on mismatches. He gets the occasional post up. I think with these two guys, or with these three guys who are more likely to attack switches on their own, there's a good chance that DeAndre Ayton ends up in the dunker spot a lot. And I think that means for him, it could be a lot of good stuff. If he tries really hard in that spot, he can get, first of all, a ton of offensive rebounds because he's going to be around the rim more than he's ever been before. And also just some easy dump-off passes because the fact that Durant, Booker, and Beal all can shoot from mid-range, if they trap at all on the perimeter on any of those guys and another one is shooting to the mid-range, the defender's going to have to come off of him, and that creates an easy lob pass to him at the rim. So he should be really efficient. What I'm curious about is how much he wants that. How much does he want to stand in the dunker spot?
I mean, dude, we don't know. we just don't know. Speculating anything.
Every conversation that's been had about this, the Suns team seem to say we're going to find ways to get him the right touches so that he remains engaged defensively.
Right.
But it's hard to picture an offense where they're going to be really great, where they're not like, they have to be somewhat equitable, and that means less for everyone, including him.
Yeah, I mean, if their version of getting him more touches is just feeding him post-ups, it's not going to work. This offense is just, they're not going to hum like we want them to. They're not going to be top 1, top 2 in the league. They could be good, but, 8 and post-ups have their place. They can't be a main staple of the offense when you have 3 players as talented as the 3 in front of him. The dunker spot / dump off conversation is interesting, though.
Can we call it the layup spot for him?
That's fine. I did not think of that. I'll give you credit for that one. The layup spot, the finesse layup spot, is important because the types of playmakers that Kevin Durant and even Devin Booker are, I think you're absolutely right to point out that those are the passes, the easy dump off passes to a guy in the dunker spot are more likely to be facilitated from those guys versus, give some credit to Chris Paul, some of the passes he traditionally has made to DeAndre Ayton in a straight up pick and roll. In traffic, threading a needle between two guys, nutmegging someone not half the time, but nutmegging someone. We've
more
seen
than
him do
anyone
it.
else in the Suns, yeah.
He creates something out of nothing for Ayton in a way that I think, even now that he's off the team, a lot of people never gave Chris the credit for that. So those straight up pick and roll plays are just going to be harder if it's Devin Booker or Bradley Beal running those. We'll see. If he plays as much in the dunker spot as you want, then his efficiency should skyrocket. But I don't know if he's going to.
I think if he's the only screener, the Suns are going to face a ton of traps and just sort of trust that DeAndre Ayton's going to be facing a small guy at the rim and then see what happens. And that forces the ball into his hands in space. And like it's always been, but I think it's going to be even more now because they're just going to fully ignore him when he's in the mid-range moving. And it's going to be fascinating to see. And that's why I wonder if more often they're going to put him in the dunker spot so that he's not forced with the ball in the middle of the floor. He's catching it near the rim if he's left.
Or he goes full Brook Lopez this year. Maybe this is the year he just starts jacking 7 or 8
corner
threes
threes in the first 20 games. Yeah.
I mean, my jaw would drop if it happened.
They'll still leave him wide open.
Yeah, but if he shoots 33% on them, if he could do that, is it worth it?
It's not terrible. Yeah.
It's not terrible. If he's shooting volume, and it means you can just run Spain pick and rolls with Kevin Durant every play because there's DeAndre Ayton in the corner and he's hitting better than Josh Okogie would, that might be enough for me. But I doubt it happens.
All right, Max Hodder said, Who wins more games in an 82-game season? 13 Josh Okogies or 13 Damion Lees?
I'm going 13 Josh Okogies.
Wow, you didn't even have to think about that.
I did not have to think about it. He's got, they've got the dogs in.
No, I think you're right.
That's how
Damion
to
Lee's not going to be able to
conjugate
dribble, or pass.
Yeah.
It's just like Damion Lee's like real stuck there.
The
He picked
score-
someone that has better ball handling, but Damion Lee's not going to be able to get it past half court half the time here.
Is this like a traditional game to 21? Okay. Also, are we doing 1s and 2s or 2s and 3s?
That's a good point.
That matters if
82-game
it's
season.
Damion
I'm
Lee.
assuming 82-game season. I assume we're going full.
Okay.
We're going full
Normal
NBA rules here. Yeah.
All right, because I was gonna say maybe you could get me on the Damion Lee side if we were doing like street ball 1s and I don't know, but Okogie if they're not calling any fouls, this is hard. I'm just going Okogie.
Those two guys trying to get fouled on each other would be funny. Which Sun? This is from Kai. Which Sun has your favorite off-season video so far?
How many have we seen? We've seen.
There was the DeAndre Ayton Bahamas interview that we talked about on Patreon.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
There was the Okogie mixtape.
Yep.
From his whatever he was at. I guess Cameron Payne doesn't count because we saw some Cameron Payne highlights.
There was a video. Was it a video or a picture of Book and KD working out together in the Bahamas too?
There was like some shooting happening in that video,
but they weren't doing anything. They were just shooting.
Yeah, Booker went live on Instagram to golf. That was boring. That's it. That's all we got, right?
Yeah, we don't have a lot to work with.
So Okogie wins then. He had that step back 3, right?
I didn't see it. Can I be honest with you? I didn't watch that video.
I mean,
I took one look at that video and I was like, I don't care. I'll do respect, Josh.
You're right.
But I don't care.
You're right. I mean, like, these guys are going to beat the hell out of non-NBA players, right? Nobody is surprised by that.
He really hit a step back 3 though. Good for you, Josh.
Yeah, not only he hit like a step back that was like a pretty good crossover, lost his man, and then stepped back even further and shot it and made it. Yeah. He probably had got like 40 shots in that game though. It's not a normal Josh Okogie game.
Who's going to have better highlights? If you just cut a 1-minute highlight reel for what they do for the Suns this year, whose is going to look more impressive? Josh Okogie's or Bol Bol's?
Oh, Bol probably, right?
You think it's going to be Bol?
Because that was a good question.
Okogie might
I was
play...
prepared to say Josh Okogie, but like Bol, when he does stuff, it's pretty crazy when he does stuff.
I mean,
because he'll go behind the back from the 3-point line and then dunk on someone.
Or
he'll block someone and then go all the way down and dunk.
But Okogie literally did. Remember when Okogie blocked that player on the Rockets? Can't remember who it was.
I was going to say, if you picked anyone other than Bol, I was going to say my most viral tweet last season was a Josh Okogie play. It was the video of that
He's
play.
so cool at his best. He's so cool.
He is. Yeah, I think Bol though, because like I think he's every time he does something cool, it goes viral because it just looks so cool. So I'm gonna say Bol. That's a good question. You added to our mailbag.
Thank you.
And we got a Bol question. Steven says, "Does his zone help Bol become playable?" Maybe.
I don't know, but
that's actually interesting.
I would like to see it.
Yeah.
So the thinking is that Bol with his natural length in his zone can just plug up passing lanes.
But you kind of force him out to the perimeter a lot, which is where he struggles.
That's true.
Unless you do some version of like a 2-3, but I don't think that you can really do that with him.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what type of
Sure, let's see it. I want to see it. I didn't watch Orlando enough to know, you know? I don't feel confident.
This is a question for someone who watched every Magic game last year to know what it looked like specifically when he was in the zone.
By the way, can I mention something about Bol? He was averaging 12 points a game, and then he got COVID, and it was pretty bad. And then his average points per game went down by a few points to like 9, and his shooting went down pretty dramatically. So anyway, if you're buying stock,
are you saying you're on the train, Mike? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I think that if you're a Suns fan, you automatically have to believe that COVID impacts the team negatively if you have it.
I don't need to be convinced.
It's part of being a Suns fan.
I don't need to be convinced. If anyone out there needs to be convinced, but I'm over here. I'm already drinking the bowl of Kool-Aid. I'm sorry, that was bad.
That's how he serves it.
Next question.
Avery said, "My fiance and I just finished moving, and I was wondering if you or Mike, because this is on your tweet, have any weird or funny moving situations or stories that you want to share with the class."
I don't. You haven't moved in a while, have you?
Like 8 years, 9
Like 8
years.
years? Yeah. I've moved twice in the past several years. I can't think of anything like crazy that happens to me. Nothing crazy has happened to me. You know, I was told by my previous neighbor that the people who moved in, we just moved 2 months ago, and the people who moved in to where we were after us, one of their cars was stolen like the first night they were there.
Is it a Kia or a Hyundai?
It is a Kia or a Hyundai.
Okay.
It's one of the two. I'm not sure which one. Is that as much of a problem in Phoenix as it is over here?
It's everywhere because people online just share how to steal those. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing about the internet. Well, so it was isolated to like a few cities in like 2021, 2022.
Yeah, Chicago,
and now it's
Milwaukee.
Just Chicago, Milwaukee. Yeah. And now it has just exploded everywhere. And I feel really bad, by the way, for anyone who has a Kia or Hyundai. And I know that there are class action lawsuits that people are working on.
Yeah, there's even issues where insurance companies are trying not to insure like different kinds of Kias and stuff like that.
So hopefully if you're one of those people, I sympathize because that's all I can do. And hopefully someone can help you out. But no, nothing crazy has happened to me specifically.
I will say that nothing has happened to me recently, obviously, because I haven't moved in a long time. But I've lived in Phoenix for like 18 years almost. And I think just about every time I've moved has been the summer. And it sucks.
Why?
It just sort of worked out like that. Like it was never
just your
intentional.
Lease expires or something.
You know, like I moved here after graduating high school, first of all. So like that's the summer when you move often. So that's what happened. And then just the series of leases sort of expiring after that, you know, ends up where you're just moving in the summer a lot. So it sucks. I don't recommend it. If you can avoid doing that, dude, I highly recommend it.
Some of you people down there are crazy, man. That can be dangerous. That can be really dangerous. I can't believe you do that.
Yeah.
Like I would never consider if my lease happened to be expiring on some 10-degree day here in February, I would just like ask for a 3-month extension or something. I don't know. I understand not every situation is the same, but like there are some weather situations that you just don't move in. You do not move in 120-degree weather in Phoenix. That's insane to me.
Right. Augie 5000. Shout out Augie, Redditor. Fans with sources, he puts out in quotes, good or bad thing.
Oh, wow.
Look, I'll say from my perspective, it's however you want. It's whatever you want it to be, right? In that if you're having fun with it and it's fun for you, then yeah, that's fine. Just as long as you're not really hurting anybody, then that's totally fine. For us, we try to only cover on the podcast if it comes from some sort of newsbreaker that that works for like a news company essentially. And the reason we do that is, for me, from my perspective, is just because there has to be some sort of line. Otherwise, we'd be covering a lot of people who just makes, like Ari Abraham, for example, who guaranteed that Kawhi Leonard was going to the Lakers a few years ago.
So the thing is, the definition of newsbreaker is understandably changing over time. I don't necessarily have an issue with that. I certainly don't have an issue with any fan who has legitimate sources and wants to share information. They're within their right to do so. I think it's just more the responsibility of us as consumers to understand what we're being fed. And the thing that, like, the reason I still like to quote or retweet or whatever, the traditional newsbreakers that you're talking about, the beat reporters who work for media organizations, is because there is that system of accountability. And more specifically, these people, by virtue of not being fans, don't feel the need to tell you what you want to hear all the time.
Right.
I think that's the big infestation that we're seeing online at the moment, kind of in every fan base, is that when you only cover one team, it can be really tempting to just always have a positive rose-tinted view of things and only tell people what they want to hear, because guess what? It sounds really nice.
Can I give an example?
Sure, go ahead.
A Knicks guy who said that one of the main targets for the Knicks was Devin Booker, for example. Yeah. I think that's an example of that's going to get a ton of likes from Knicks fans, but it's not realistic in any way. And
whereas, yeah, I mean, it's completely unrealistic and completely absurd and ridiculous. Whereas these beat reporters, at least, like, I'm not going to pretend that there aren't bad beat reporters who work for quote unquote legitimate media organizations or newspapers or whatever too. There are grifters all over. But a good beat reporter, at least, approaches these situations with a certain level of objectivity. They're not fans. They can ask tough questions. If a team is having a shit season or makes a shit transaction, or has a shit owner, whatever the situation is, they can approach those situations
the news
correctly.
that's being sourced is not positive,
right,
they're going to tell you it. Right?
And by the way, that doesn't mean also, because this is what's complicated for so many people. This is what I talk about when I say the industry is constantly evolving. You can be a quote-unquote objective newsbreaker or beat reporter and still have your own analysis of the team. You can do both. And I think so many of the people who work in the Sun space who are the best at what they do, the Kellens, the Geralds, they have the reporter version of them that just reports the facts and is in the locker room and asks the right questions. And then they have the analytical version of themselves, which is analyzing what they're seeing on the court. And that's okay. You can be a journalist and still have your own perspective, in sports at least, in 2023. But it's the sense of obligation that those types of guys feel towards not just being fans. That's important to me. And I don't know if it's important to everyone, but it's important to me.
I do want to say, too, we on this podcast are not super nice to newsbreakers in that we really go at Shams. We really go at Woj. We really go at anyone who we think is playing with some level of, I don't know, some kind of motive, I guess is a way to say it. And I don't want to do that to Suns fans, and I would have to in order to feel okay about talking about it, because I would always have to question, why are they saying it? Where is it coming from? And what's motivating it? And if we did that, if we applied that level of scrutiny to some Suns fans, then it would just be us bullying Suns fans, and I don't necessarily want to do that, personally. Anything else?
No.
All right. Number one, Mikal Bridges fan, sorry, said, do you think a full season of playing alongside KD and Beal will facilitate a jump for Devin Booker's three-point percentage and attempts this season, or will he continue to gravitate towards the mid-range? I think it will. I think all three guys will get more corner threes than they've ever gotten.
Is it fair to say, I think maybe the addition of Eric Gordon does more for Devin Booker's 3-point percentage than the other two? That's
interesting. Is that because he has to be in the corner?
Is that an absurd, wacky take? No, just the idea of Gordon spacing and his launching of 30-foot threes. I don't really know. So let's see, what exactly did he shoot? He shot 35.1% last year on 6 attempts, down from 7 attempts the year before at 38%. I know we're going to get to this episode probably in September, October. You always set the over-unders. If you had to set an over-under for Booker's 3-point attempts per game right now, what would you do? He was at 7 2 seasons ago. He was at 6 last year.
That's interesting.
His career average is 5.8.
I'm going to add to this, and forgive me. Oh, here it is. Steven is another question here. Who leads the Suns in 3-point attempts next season was a question that we got as well. And I think that just sort of aligns with what you're asking. And
right.
I think it would have to be a starter. I guess maybe not. How many?
I think it would have to be a starter. Even if Gordon.
Well, was it Cameron Johnson before though? Attempts per game? I think it was.
All right, let me look.
And he was coming off the bench at that time.
So this is the thing about Mailbag episodes. We got to do some of this research on the fly. So Gordon averaged 5.2 3-point attempts in 28 minutes last year.
Yes, and he's probably not going to play more than 28 minutes.
I don't think he's going to play more than 28 minutes. So he's the only guy who could compete for that spot. So I think Devin Booker is going to lead the Suns in 3-point attempts.
I think Devin Booker or Bradley Beal most likely.
I am hoping that is more than 6 attempts per game, which is what he averaged last year.
I think it'll probably be around the same for Booker, just in that I think his shot attempts might go down.
That's fair,
maybe his catch and shoots might go up. That over-under podcast, by the way.
Oh, that's going to be
fascinating.
That's going to be a doozy. I don't even know where to start.
It's going to be fascinating. Let's see. How long are we? We're at about 50. Okay, we got time. Gareth Giggs. What lineup combos are you most excited to see? He gave some examples. KD, Yuta, KDB. We got KD and KDB. Interesting. Gordon and Book, which is an insane shooting lineup. And then we got Eubanks, KD, KDB, Okogie, and Goodwin, which is all defense. I don't know if I want to see that. That offense is going to be bad in that one.
That
KD.
first one has KD at center, right? KD,
yes, and
Yuta,
that's what
KD.
I mean. I got an obvious KD at center lineup. That's mine.
That's great.
Personally,
I'm still.
Well, let me say mine. Actually, it's not quite that. Booker, Beal, Gordon, Yuta, and KD, all offense. Force the center of the other team off the floor.
And
spread the offense as far as possible and just jack up threes over and over and over again. KD handling the ball so that it's impossible to guard it. Small guys setting screens over and over and over, inverted pick and rolls, jack up threes.
Offensive rating 150.
Yeah,
defensive rating
maybe 120, but
122, but still, yeah, exactly. You'd still be great. I am just gonna throw out there as a gag, I guess, for this one, since I agree with you. I really like that one too. Give me Book at point. Give me Bates Diop at the 2, KD at the 3, Bol at the 4, and Ayton at the 5.
Okay.
That is, I believe,
love it.
a 7'3", 7'6", 7'8", 7'6" wingspan at your positions 2 through 5. Would it be good?
You know what? Throw Eubanks in there. He shoots threes occasionally.
Sure, Eubanks.
Put KD at point guard.
Put Bol at point guard and throw Eubanks in there at center, and we'll call it a day. Would it be good? I don't know.
Yeah.
Would it be fun? Absolutely.
And, another question related to this. This is from Bazir. What would be your ideal death lineup? Which I think has to have defense.
I think a death lineup is sorry, it has to have what?
Defense, right? It can't just be offense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was going to say a death lineup to me kind of implies KD at the 5.
I think it does too. I think it has to because, look, if you're playing the Bucks and they can counter KD at the 5 with Giannis at the 5, maybe you don't do that, right? But most other teams, like even against the Nuggets, like especially if you're behind and you need to catch up here, now you're putting. I mean, what do? They put Jokic on KD. They kind of would have to, and yes, it would be hard on the other end, of course. But I mean, if you're trying to get threes up, get wide open shots, then that's something you do. I think what I would do is probably the 3 main offensive players, Book, Beal, KD. And maybe Okogie and KDB just to get some length and defense.
So that's the thing. But as soon as you do
and
that,
and
you could do
Okogie's
that.
the screener,
right? As soon as you do that, you said Jokic would guard KD. Jokic is going to guard whoever the worst offensive player is.
Okogie, and then you bring him in. He screens for KD. You try to involve Jokic in the action as much as possible.
Sure, but I think the Nuggets kind of live with that.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
maybe
it's not
Yuta.
not that easy to live with.
Maybe Yuta is the 5th guy, so Jokic is guarding him, but he has such an elite corner shooter there, so he really feels the stretch.
He has to hug up on him. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. We're gonna have to revisit that kind of question as the season rolls along, and that's gonna be one of the main topics for us, I think. Oh, this is a good one. This is actually from the Burns and Gambo show.
What?
They didn't comment on your tweet, but somebody posted a link to the question they asked, which is Mikal Bridges told the Podcast P show, which is Paul George's podcast, that the Suns shouldn't have traded him when they did. Do you agree? Now, let me just say, I haven't listened to the podcast. I imagine the context of Mikal Bridges saying that was in a fun way, not in a angry and vindictive way. And no, look, if the Suns could have done the trade without including Mikal Bridges, I wish they would have done that. But, if it's to get KD on the team and it leads to the team that we have now, they did what they had to do.
I have no regrets, and I don't feel bad about Mikal Bridges being in, a giant metropolis like New York City with several of his friends around, and Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart and, Cam Johnson, people who are really good friends of his living together, not together, but all in that city. He's doing fine.
I will say, too, and Kellen brought up on the radio when they were talking about this, apparently. I didn't listen, so sorry, Kellen, if you're listening here. Kellen, somebody just summarized.
Exposed.
Yeah. I mean, I got to work during the day. But he brought up the idea of the Suns keeping Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. Mikal Bridges sort of developing into what is a future All-Star, which apparently he probably will be at some point in his career. And then maybe using DeAndre in a pick to trade for other people and using Chris Paul still to trade for Beal. Now, DeAndre in a pick, maybe you can get a good player from him. Maybe you had 2 picks, you get an even better player. Chris Paul for Beal in that scenario, Beal was a free agent. I know that he was traded, but he was a free agent. And he chose to play for the Suns because they had Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And I'm not convinced that he would have chosen to play with Mikal Bridges and Devin Booker in the same way, personally.
Yeah, I think he would have preferred Miami.
Yeah,
in that case.
I think there's other options for him in that case where, because of his no trade clause, he chose the team he went to. And I think the Suns really kind of lucked out in that scenario. It was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Guys are not going to get no-trade clauses anymore, and they kind of nailed it.
Yeah, Bradley Beal was kind of a dividend return for the Suns in the sense that, like, you know, once you're already rich, it's a lot easier to make a lot of passive income. You know what I mean? Like, once the Suns already have Kevin Durant, it becomes easier to add even more star talent.
Yeah, and you
through Bradley Beal, through ring chasers, whatever.
Eric Gordon, yeah. Those are similar options. Erasmo said, how many points per game would a scruffy D-Book average? Got to be 30 a game, right? This is funny because Booker hasn't really gotten a haircut. I guess he did get a haircut. He posted a picture of a barber. Nobody's seen his hair since, by the way. Maybe he went bald. But he was looking pretty scruffy for a while there. And,
he's in hermit book mode. I don't mind.
He's just in the mountains growing his hair out.
He's shepherding goats.
He's a mountain man.
What's he doing in his off season? I would not be surprised. He should do whatever it takes to get his head right for the season, man. I don't care. I think he'd be capable of having a good season if he rocked the scruffy look.
It doesn't seem like he's going to bring that into the season.
Did KD influence him to do that in the first place, do you think,
I don't know.
Because that's kind of KD's look, too. He's a hermit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there was some speculation of that, and I understand why there was some speculation of that. HG said, do you think Booker will average more or fewer points in the regular season than he did last year? Can we? Let's save that for the over-under podcast. You know, we'll answer that one. Sorry, HG. We'll answer that one eventually, I promise. Because that I haven't thought about enough to answer, and I'm going to put the numbers somewhere probably similar to what his points were last year. What are the vibes? We talked about this briefly, but what are the vibes around the new midseason tournament this year? Do you think that maybe this Suns team is a little more motivated to go for it since we have a bunch of vet minimum guys, and the prize is a decent sack of money? That's a great point.
That actually is a good point.
Because there's 12 minimum players on the Suns, and that's $500,000 for each of those guys.
One of them is going to be in the starting lineup, and for any one of those guys, that's like a 25-30% raise if they win that pot. It's a big deal. You need the star players to play well too, though. Ultimately, though, the star players just love basketball. They're going to be giving it their all, no matter if it's regular season game number 17 or this midseason tournament, which is what they're rolling out. So I am not convinced that the regular season tournament will really excite fans.
Right.
During its inaugural season. I'm a diehard fan, and it doesn't necessarily speak to me. But I think the players will try. You don't think that those
early December games where the tournament takes place will have more viewers than last year?
I think they'll get a bump.
Yeah, I do too. I think more people will watch them, even though they're just out of curiosity.
But now,
how sustainable that is interesting.
What does it take for the NBA to define that as success? The average regular season game on TNT ESPN gets what? A couple million viewers, whereas the average NBA Finals game, now this is an apples to oranges comparison, but like an NBA Finals game might get 10 million viewers. What is a version of success?
If the championship game gets 2.5 million, is that a success, is what you're saying?
Right, exactly. If it gets a little bit more than the average regular season game, but still far, far, far less than any playoff game, was it worth it?
They're going to rig it to put LeBron in it, aren't they? That's what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything necessarily. I just don't, I honestly don't know what motivated them to make this. I do understand what motivated them. I'm not with it yet.
I'm interested to see how our coverage evolves on it, how we talk about it, because the games, I like the way they did it in that the games on Tuesdays and Fridays are now group play games. So those games count towards your seeding in the tournament once it gets to a single game elimination tournament. And that is kind of fun in that, when we're talking about the games on Tuesdays and Fridays, we know what they are. They matter towards whatever that arbitrary trophy is. And I don't know. I think it could be fun. I don't really know. That's a good question. That was 1-2-3Z, by the way. Eric Ruby, and by the way, $500,000. People go, that's not a lot for NBA players, but those minimum guys, it is. It's a lot. Like Ish Wainwright, if he's still on the team at that time, it's a lot of money for him.
It's a 30% raise based on performing well over 1 or 2 weeks. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Eric Ruby said, who will be the biggest off-ball threat for the Suns this season? Obviously, mainly between Book and KD, but I think someone might be able to make an argument for Beal. Or is there anyone else? And I think KD probably, right?
What was that chart you posted earlier today? I feel like this is relevant here.
So that was a B-ball index chart that measured movement impact per 75 possessions, which is a arbitrary statistic, but it essentially it tracks how defenses react to how players move off the ball.
Right.
And the impact that it has on that, which Devin Booker was essentially the best player in the NBA last season in that stat.
And so that was the y-axis.
Spot up, and then there's spot up points per possession. So catch and shoot, spot up shots, points per possession.
So I think the cool thing about the
movement...
movement...
Where KD essentially led in that stat, by the way.
I think the cool thing about the movement impact stat there is, sometimes you contrast this idea between, say you take a shooter and you contrast their percentages between being a standstill shooter or a movement shooter. And that's fine. It measures one type of gravity and ability to move without the ball. This movement impact stat is really all-encompassing in that you've got guys like Booker who can do everything. He can move without the ball in any number of ways, and that's why he ranks so well in this stat. But also, cuts are taken heavily into account here. And so I also saw in that chart a player like Aaron Gordon was close to leading the league in terms of his ability to move without the ball. Maybe just because of the way that Jokic attracts his own gravity in the Nuggets offense. I don't know, but for whatever reason, Aaron Gordon ranked really highly there. He's obviously not coming off screens at the top of the key and launching threes. That's because of his cutting ability. So I don't know. I guess that answers the question right there, right? It's Book, number one. But if we have to choose someone other than Book or KD, then Eric Gordon, maybe, based on his ability to launch threes. I mean, would you put Eric Gordon or Bradley Beal?
DeAndre in at the rim, I think, has a pretty big impact as far as gravity goes.
As far as gravity goes, yes, but as far as movement goes, if he's
that's a good point. It's not about movement.
If he's a dunker spot guy, then he's a dunker spot guy.
He's just standing there, yeah.
He still has gravity.
I don't think Gordon's going to be running around a lot, too. You know who does run around a lot? I watched every single one of his three-point attempts last year. Yuta. Yuta is kind of a bit of a Duncan Robinson. Yeah, he's going to fly around screens and catch and shoot around those, and I think he could be interesting. Whereas Gordon kind of just stands there, but stands way out there. The other thing about Gordon is Gordon will sprint into a three-point shot in half court.
He does.
In transition, which is a fascinating thing. It's a little like a movement shooter, but the defenses are automatically backpedaling in those scenarios. And when you can shoot from 30, you're open. If you're sprinting, you're open just about every time you catch it there.
Tell me this. Since you watched all of his threes and you made the Duncan Robinson comparison, does he do like the Duncan Robinson take a handoff, dribble into a pull-up three, or that's
the
not
one that's
a
travel?
Really
You mean like a single dribble, right?
Like a single dribble, or even, I mean, I've seen Duncan Robinson do it with no dribble too.
Yeah, and with no dribble, I think he can do that. Just sort of cutting around, doing the fake cuts, and then back around the DHO. Yeah, I think he can do that. With a single dribble, I didn't see a lot of that from my memory. I'm excited about Yuta. I think he's going to be... I mean, he's a 6'8" guy that shot 50% from the corner. Like, that's crazy. I'm pretty excited about that. Let's see. We got a little bit of time left. Did you have any questions you saw that you want to get to that we haven't gotten to yet?
No, but let me scroll down, see if there's anything.
Would the Knicks getting Book...
God, there was...
Why would the Knicks getting Book even be possible? It's not.
The Knicks are not getting Book. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, the tough thing about Twitter is it's showing me these in a different order probably than it showed you. So this is... Have you watched Juan23z.bluesky.social? Have you watched any Slam Ball, Mike?
Oh.
Seems kind of fun. I'd personally like to see a bunch of NBA mascots play against each other. That's pretty funny. Did you know that Slam Ball is back?
I did, yeah.
You're aware of, so that listeners know, Slam Ball was the trampoline basketball that was popularized by, what was it, like Spike TV back in the 2000s?
Maybe, yeah.
What was it on? I think it was on something like
that. Yeah.
Personally, I think it's a little crazy that Slam Ball is back, only because I feel like maybe some people forgot the completely brutal and gnarly injuries that can result when you have fully grown men fly into each other at high impact speeds off of trampolines. And I hope that nothing like that happens. But no, I haven't watched any of the new Slam Ball season. Maybe it's something.
It gives me anxiety. I just feel like somebody's gonna break their leg. Like,
were you ever
on TV.
Were you ever like a trampoline park guy yourself? I wasn't as a kid.
I liked trampolines, but I didn't do that kind of thing. No.
Yeah, like a singular trampoline was fine for me in someone's backyard or whatever, but like they've got the parks where people are doing like parkour on them, and I'm not gonna lie, that stresses me out too.
Right. This is from Alex. Who is a Barbie and who is an Oppenheimer on
that's
Sons?
great. That is great. Do you want to go first or should I?
I have no idea. I didn't think about it until I read it out loud.
Thank you, Alex, for this wonderful question. Maybe we can finish off here.
So let's just describe. I watched Barbie. I'll describe what Barbie is. I would say she's like an optimistic, bright side person who has an existential crisis. And I think, is that Aiton?
I know exactly who that is. That's Bradley Beal. Because in every video that I've ever seen of Bradley Beal, he seems like a generally easygoing guy. He's typically laughing with teammates for the cameras. He has a good attitude around fans. You know, he'll like heckle fans back and stuff like that. So he seems like an easygoing dude. But then the existential crisis: can I ever win in Washington? Do I need to force myself out of Washington with this?
Do you ever think about death? Yeah.
With this no trade clause? Do you ever think about
being traded?
Do you ever think about retiring after 20 years in the NBA with $1 billion and no rings? It's has to be Bradley Beal to me. It's obvious.
And Oppenheimer, is that James Jones because he's like the one putting it all together?
That could be James Jones. I was going to go with Devin Booker.
I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, so.
But I
know who he is, but
you don't have. I would hope so.
He's a real person. So
you don't have to have seen Oppenheimer. So my thing is Booker's got the classic. I
think it's
his go-to celebration, right? Like the stoic lying on the floor, soaking in, having to live with the destruction that he has wrought upon his enemies.
Okay,
that's like an Oppenheimer-esque thing.
I'll make the case for James Jones in that he still feels bad about trading Mikal Bridges, so he's like putting it all together, but he has this like crisis inside of him knowing that he did something he didn't want to do in order to build it. So there you go. Good question. That's all we got. I look forward to seeing that movie. Thank you everyone for listening. If you would like to hear a midweek podcast, join us at patreon.com/thetimeline. $6 a month if you want an extra podcast every week. And you can join our Discord for as low as $3 a month as well. Thanks, everyone, and we'll be back very, very soon.
For over a century, Johnny Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereaux Golf, Johnny Walker introduces the Johnny Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, blue label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereaux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnnywalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly.